up, everybody? We're back. Rubber penises, foot races, and age-old trope of the wise prostitute.
Okay.
Politics of human sexuality has it has a lot.
What in the reverse Porky's is going on here?
This is the episode where Annie breaks into the office to practice step 1 of safe sex on a mannequin. Jeff weaponizes his desperation, and Abed accidentally causes a public health emergency. Welcome back to the Community Field Guide. I'm back, Beard's back, Waffle Truck is not back, and my hobby crusade is mostly over.
Ow, it burns!
And yes, Love Island Season 7 definitely hijacked a few weeks of my life as well.
He cried after and during.
Now, I've been sitting on this one for a little bit, running through different versions and variations of the script. I pretty much had a fully finished video already ready to go, but, you know, I decided let's just take a beat and come back when it's right. And it's right. So with that, let's unwrap it. Greendale is putting on its STD Awareness Fair, which makes sense because if there's one campus that radiates unprotected decisions, it's this one. Annie gets tapped to organize the fair because she's Annie and she'll do whatever, and Dean Pelton recognizes raw obsessive-compulsive energy. Mark of a good leader. She starts handing out flyers outside the cafeteria like a one-woman CDC. Nobody really cares, much like our CDC. Troy and Abed literally throw theirs in the trash, which kickstarts their subplot, Troy's pride spiral. Meanwhile, Jeff and Britta are doing their usual will they won't they until he sees Sabrina, the dean's new assistant, and immediately tries to seduce her by pretending to care about public health. Pierce moments later brags about his new girlfriend, who's an escort.
Taking a call girl to an STD fair. This joke here.
Jeff's ego is threatened a little bit because being outflanked by Pierce is a rock bottom scenario, and I understand that. And so his A-plot begins, which is another existential identity crisis. Cool. Like, maybe this is just the shtick of season 1 of Community, or like maybe I'm just seeing this because of where I'm at in my life. But we've already had Jeff learns about his identity from multiple angles at this point, like his fake lawyer past or his rich, hollow lifestyle past, or I guess now like his horniness past. Is that what we're going with? Is that what this episode's about? Stay tuned to the deeper meaning. Back to Annie. The dean rewards her hard work by assigning her more work. Mark of a good leader.
There's a dog fighting ring in my office?
And now she needs to give a live condom demonstration on stage with a model that is apparently very realistic.
I will now show you how to put this condom on using this pencil.
Annie has a full body shutdown and later confesses to Britta and Shirley that although she's not a stranger to the deed, she's never actually seen the piece. Naturally, the only solution is crime, and she plans a stealthy break-in to the dean's office to do some private research. This is what Community does best, in my opinion, is turn a teachable moment into a reverse heist, featuring 3 women, a plastic penis, and an extremely deadpan campus cop.
She didn't say it.
Who I love, by the way. I'm so glad they made this guy a recurring character. While Annie's off being a sex ed criminal, Jeff is spiraling in his own ways. He spends the day calling every woman in his phone, trying to land a date for this STD fair, which is a good joke.
Was it some kind of joke?
Nope. This is. Don't eat the crab dip. Yay.
Britta catches him mid-scroll and calls out how many of his contacts are labeled yoga butt or blonde maybe. And she tells him that he is shallow, which really shouldn't be a surprise at this point or something that he even cares to be called. And he doesn't care. And he ultimately decides to go it alone. But when Jeff finally meets up with Pierce and is definitely a professional date, he starts to realize that maybe he's losing this game. Not because he's older, but because he's empty. And he flirts with Sabrina, scores a date, and after some awkward double date banter and a surprise therapy session from Doreen, he and Sabrina head off to his car for what should be an easy win. I'm navigating. You know, we're navigating the algorithm here.
To ensure we discuss these sensitive topics in a legally appropriate manner.
Meanwhile, Doreen, having done her job both professionally and emotionally, breaks things off with Pierce. She's evolved, maybe Pierce is not. Things happen in this episode, like Troy challenges Abed to a variety of games and competitions, basketball, arcade, reflexes, and Troy loses every single one of those. It's not even close. It's like Abed has cheat codes enabled. I'm back in the office. Annie and the crew find the anatomically correct model. Annie stares it down like it's a boss battle, and then that's when the officer Kekowski shows up. He's confused and they're embarrassed, and the dean and the never before seen or ever again school counselor arrive to try to fix things up by getting everybody to say penis in unison. Annie doesn't say it, and the very perceptive officer spots that and calls her out. Instead of just conforming, she delivers a passionate monologue about her repression and how maybe we wouldn't have to have so many STD fairs if there were more people like her in the world. Back at Jeff's car, Sabrina and him start making out, but like mid-grope, Jeff hits a wall. Maybe not physically, but emotionally, realizes this isn't really what he wants. Or maybe it is what he wants, but mimicking Annie's storyline, gets right to the finish line and all of a sudden is interrupted by someone else's influence. It's unclear if this is a moral breakthrough or just garden variety performance anxiety. Either way, no hookup happens.
Wow, this may be the only STD fair to actually spread STD. You shut up, Danny.
And the episode climaxes with a public health disaster. The condoms being handed out all night, it turns out, are defective. Someone needs to warn the student body, so Dean sends Troy, now humbled, who tags in Abed to deliver the emergency PSA. And it's a doozy.
Attention Greendale students, don't use the condoms. If you're going to have sex tonight, don't use condoms.
The episode ends with Jeff admitting he didn't go through with it. Pierce surprisingly relates in a very casual way that we've seen him do a few times in this season, and I think never again. They toast to being better men, and Pierce asks for $200 to pay for Doreen's company. So growth-ish. And in a quiet final gesture, Jeff renames Britta in his phone to just Britta. And with that, let's dive into the deeper meaning. So here's a part where I would pretend that this episode is just about sex and condoms and mannequin penises, but it's not. The politics of human sexuality isn't really about sexuality at all. It's about identity. It's performed identity, like a projected identity. The version of you that emerges when you step into the arena and realize that people are watching. And that's where politics enters the frame. Not like partisanship, but posturing. Every story in this episode is built around a central pressure. Who do you become when your worth feels like it's on trial? And so we could start with Jeff. Jeff doesn't pursue Sabrina because he wants her. He pursues her because Pierce has a date. It's a reflex. This is a defense mechanism, a measuring stick to make sure that his manhood meets or exceeds his peers. And this kind of masculinity is a house of cards. And one blow from Pierce is enough to set as, are we going with that? One blow from Pierce? And one blow from Pierce is enough to send this house of cards flying. But the interesting twist is that the episode never fully indulges him. It doesn't reward Jeff's behavior. It lets him go through the motions, calling every woman he knows, putting on his charm armor, only to arrive to the makeout scene and realize there's nothing really there. He could have succeeded, but he chooses not to. Jeff's performed this version of masculinity for so long that it would seem the lines are wearing thin. He's not aroused, he's exhausted. And it takes a prostitute, not a therapist, not Britta, not a friend, to help him see that. Doreen tells him that as men get older, connection starts mattering more than conquest. And that lands for him. Growth in the absence of growth. Poetry. I was in the pool! Now let's talk about Troy and Abed. Their subplot is deceitfully light, a series of goofy competitions. But underneath it, there's something more vulnerable. Troy is a former high school quarterback, and I know what that's like. His identity is built around winning, and Abed is systematically dismantling that image. He's beating Troy at everything, effortlessly even, and Troy is unraveling. But Abed doesn't really rub it in. He doesn't even seem to care. And in the final foot race, he ends up throwing the game. Not because he has to, but because he understands that Troy needs this for some reason. And while the story focuses on Troy's tension with how all of this plays out, I do think it's interesting to watch Abed throw a race. Because that wasn't weakness, it was empathy. And knowing the difference there is emotional intelligence. And I think that's what the point of Troy's journey is to lead him to. We all have these markers that we gauge our value to society, and they're all arbitrary and stupid, and they don't matter. And then finally, Annie. Annie's story is the most literal here. She's being asked to step into a role of condom demonstrator. That conflicts with her internal sense of identity, not because she's sexually repressed exactly, but because she's not ready to perform that version of herself. Her break-in is framed as a caper, but it's a quiet act of desperation. She wants to be competent, she wants to be prepared, and she wants to be in control. And when she finally stands in the dean's office and refuses to say
Penis,
She didn't say it.
it's a joke, and I actually think it's like a meta joke for what they could get away with in this episode. But her stand is a boundary. Annie's reclaiming that little piece of agency in the world that keeps demanding more from her and to transform her, which is a fun play on sexual liberation. Rather than being pressured to not express her sexual identity, she seems to be fighting against the pressure to be liberated. But shifting that lens into more of a holistic view, the dean's been repeatedly asking more and more of Annie throughout this episode, taking away that little piece of agency that she has along the way. And so while her grandstand focuses on something of a sexual nature, it's more about taking a stand for herself in general, and that's the deeper thread here. Jeff is expected to always perform the playboy lifestyle. Troy is always expected to perform domination, and Annie's always expected to perform adaptation. But none of them wanted to be the people they're expected to be. And so, not really about sex, but then the title of the episode is Politics of Human Sexuality. I don't think it's a misdirect. I think it's a lens. It invites us to consider not just sex, but how identity itself gets negotiated in public. It is about performance, but it's about how we shape ourselves in the mirror of other people's attention. Where desire meets insecurity and social pressure pushes us towards versions of ourselves that we're not really ready to become, or no longer willing to maintain, or finally brave enough to confront. That's what this episode is about. So, but also condoms. But is this episode good? Kind of. It's got strong themes, clever structure, and a few great jokes. Annie's monologue is fantastic. Dean Pelton is thriving as always. Abed's final line here is classic. The pacing in this is a little weird. Jeff's motives are all over the place, and the humor sometimes leans into shock for shock's sake. And Britta and Shirley, again, are sidelined completely. Now I've watched this multiple times trying to create this video. I don't know. It's fine. I think what I struggle with the most is that this episode is not warranted. It doesn't reveal anything new about Jeff's character or anybody's character. It just is rehashing this idea of how we all relate to each other and have that pressure of identity there. And we've already explored this several times. So that's why I said in the intro, I'm not sure if this is just the shtick of season 1 or if it's just a miss. It's still good. I'm going to give it a 5.5 out of 10. Still better than basic genealogy, but nowhere near as good as comparative religion, which, speaking of that, join me next time as we tackle season 1, episode 12, comparative religion, which, had some comments in the past few episodes. Maybe lay off the religious talk, but, have an excuse for this one, right? Surprisingly sincere Christmas episode where Jesus, Judaism, and face punching all share some screen time. Want to thank all these fine folks for supporting the channel. You can too by clicking the links in the description. And if you don't want to, just give this video a like. That's free and it actually helps me.
Wrap it up.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.